Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a good start to their weekend, is staying healthy and strong. Welcome Mohit, hi Nisa, Clinda, Lydia, good afternoon to you. Balu, nice to see many of our regular students in the class. Welcome members. Hi, Sammy. Students, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at ieltshelp.com. You can see lots of videos with me in HD for all parts of the IELTS exam on our websites. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click this big red button to join the premium package. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. It is well worth it. Welcome Carolina, our moderator. Hi Rashika. This is our general IELTS website here with the green background. You can click this big red button to join our premium package there. Again, it's just a one-time payment, so it's well worth your investment. And on YouTube, on Sunday at this time, we will release the first part of a new series, My IELTS Band 9 Journey. That's right, I sat the official computer-based academic IELTS exam in Budapest, Hungary, and we will be starting that series this Sunday, so check that out. Students, we have apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help. Download those apps, link them to the websites. Follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp and GIELTS Help. And if you have questions, contact me, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. We've got more classes for you tomorrow as well, and then we'll have a couple days break. Now let's get into our listening. So right now we're focusing on the listening section, specifically part 3 and 4. This is a continuation from yesterday's class. Yesterday we did parts 1 and parts 2. I showed you an important strategy to look at the topics of parts 1, 2, 3, 4 in the instruction time. Okay, so in that 1 minute, 15 seconds, and we realized that, okay, well, part 1 was about registration in university. Part 2 was a resort tour. We did that yesterday. And today we are looking at part 3 and part 4, which will be a debate about zoos and something about the loggerhead turtle. Okay, all right. So we're going to get right into our listening. And again, since 2020, they've started calling these part 3 instead of section 3, just to decrease confusion. Now, for this listening, I'm using my headset. We're going to get right into the listening here pretty quick. I'm just coming over to the website. We have all of our audio on our websites. And log into your My Student account. In your My Student account, you find computer-based practice exams, lots of HD lesson videos. There's like over 100. And then you'll find your audio CDs right there. And because this is exam number 4 and part 3, it's CD 4, track 3. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So I'm going to play this audio. Don't write your answers into the chat. Keep your answers separate. Give everybody a chance to answer on their own. Okay. And then we'll go through the answers together afterwards, and I will talk strategy on how to find the better answers. Now, listen carefully. You will hear a few different accents in this listening. You'll hear a Canadian, a Kiwi, and a British accent here for the English language. So here we go, everyone. Get ready to listen, answer some questions. And again, we'll go through the answers together once the audio's finished.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening section 3. You will hear a panel discussion on the ethics of zoos. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Welcome everyone to this very special evening. Tonight's speakers are two distinguished scholars. Dr. Henry Gergen from the University of Edinburgh is a philosopher and animal rights advocate. Dr. Gloria Mesto from Trinity College Dublin is an animal conservationist. Welcome to you both. The topic of tonight's discussion is the ethics of zoos. Here is the fundamental question. Is it right to house animals in zoos, or should they live freely in nature instead?
As an animal rights advocate and theorist, I have clear views on this question. To me, it is fundamentally wrong to lock up animals for human enjoyment. I believe that in many important respects, animals are persons and should be afforded many of the rights that human beings have. Chief among these is the right to liberty and the freedom to achieve one's desired ends in life. Clearly, these rights are abrogated by imprisonment within the zoo. Moreover, in many cases, animals in zoos are treated inhumanely and are subject to confinement in extremely small spaces. While regulation of zoos may help mitigate some of these problems, I maintain that zoos are fundamentally unethical.
I certainly understand Dr. Gergen's position, and I do agree on some of his points, most notably that zoos must be held to higher standards of animal treatment than they are currently. But my colleague fails to consider an important point in favor of zoos. The conservation of species is an incredibly important endeavor, and zoos are on the front line in the battle to save hundreds of species of animals around the world. Zoos often employ some of the leading experts in the field who are best equipped to carry out this important task. It is for this reason that I believe zoos are justified. Though they may not be perfect, I believe zoos and the experts they employ play a critical role in the conservation of species and therefore are ethically permissible.
Dr. Gergen, do you have a rebuttal to that point?
Yes, certainly. While I appreciated Dr. Mester's position as a conservationist, and I do appreciate the work she and others like her do for animal welfare around the world, I must disagree with her. While zoos certainly do play a role in animal conservation, it is not because they are zoos that they play this role.
Dr. Gergen, can you clarify that point for the audience?
Of course. What I mean is this. It is not inherent in the idea of a zoo that they conserve animals. The notions are separable. You can have an animal conservation effort that is not a zoo, just as you can have a zoo that has nothing to do with conservation. So while it is true that some zoos act as animal preserves, this does not justify the existence of zoos, since we could easily separate out these animal preserves from zoos themselves.
Fair point, but such animal preserves would still have the associated problems of poor treatment and unsuitable living conditions.
Yes, but at least it would be in an effort towards a positive end. The animals would not be captive forever, and they would not be captive merely for a human audience.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 27 to 30.
What about the enjoyment and education that zoos provide, especially to young people? Perhaps individuals like yourselves were inspired to become animal advocates by attending a zoo when you were a child.
That is a really interesting point. I was indeed inspired by going to a zoo when I was a child. What do you think, Dr. Gergen?
It is an interesting thought. What if the positive outcomes caused by inspiring people like us to do good in the future outweigh the harms done to zoo animals? I'm not sure. I would have to think about it more, but it's certainly an interesting question.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. In closing, I'm not sure how much progress we've made, but is it safe to say that we can all agree that zoos, at the very least, must do their best to improve the treatment of animals and the conditions in which the animals live?
I would certainly agree with that, as I'm sure my friends would also agree.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, and use that half minute to check your answers. I'm just going to stop the audio and we'll go through these questions and answers together and talk a little bit of strategy. So here, the first question number 21. It's just one question and it has two kind of sub questions here. It's matching the professor with their university. So in the computer base, this would be a drag and drop. You'd have to just drag these and drop them to the correct matching response. So here it's just a kind of a simple start figuring out who is from which university. When you see this kind of question, realize that this answer is going to come very quickly when the professors are being introduced by the host. So here the host introduces the speakers and says, we would like to welcome Dr. Henry Gergen from the University of Edinburgh and Dr. Gloria Mesto from Trinity College, Dublin, right? So it's number one is A, number two is B. And you can do that in your answer sheet. So in your answer sheet in the paper-based exam, you'll have question 21. And what you'll want to do is 1A, 2B, like that, very, very clearly. Okay, so A and then B, all right? And to be really clear, I would go 1A, comma, 2B, all right? Computer-based exam is a little bit better this way, that you have greater clarity on how to answer the questions just because of the system they use. So again, in the computer base, you would just be dragging and dropping. So less confusion there. I do recommend taking the computer-based exam if it's available, especially if you are able to touch type, okay? That means typing in English while looking at the screen. Okay, so here you had three questions, questions 22, 23, and 24. And in these three questions, you had to figure out which of these arguments are against zoos. It means that zoos are negative. And it's clear that it's Dr. Henry Gergen who is speaking against zoos. Gloria Mesto is more for zoos. And so we're really listening for Henry Gergen's comments. And for this kind of question, okay, this is that multiple choice we had yesterday as well. What are the strategies that you should use? So I talked about this in yesterday's class. Let's see who remembers. So for multiple choice, okay, because it's basically a multiple choice question here. You just have multiple choices and you have multiple answers. And what kind of a technique should you use? So strategy for multiple choice questions. That's the best way to call these, I think, where you need to find multiple answers from a set of options. Okay, so I talked about this yesterday. There's a couple of very good strategies. Yeah, so Proud Nerd says, take a couple of notes. Yeah, so take some very basic notes. The reason for this is you can't kind of read all of the choices and stare at all of the choices. It's too much information. So take a few notes of the answers. And what was the other one? So I said there's two kind of tricks, if you will, that will help you to figure these out. One is to take notes, and what's the other one? Okay. Yeah, Arda, very good. Logic, right? So logic, think with a clear mind. Okay, what would be your argument against zoos? So let's see if you're able to figure this out. So yeah, thinking clearly, right? If somebody asks you, why do you think zoos are bad? What would be some of the logical answers that you would come up with? There's a very good chance that they will be synonymous or similar or the same as the ones here, right? So let's do this. So zoos, the animals are treated inhumanely. Inhumanely means they're not really treated fairly. So they have small cages, they walk around in circles. Would you say that? Would you say that zoos are not the best place for animals to be kept in cages? Yeah, I would probably say that. So A looks like a good answer just based on my logic if I didn't take that note. Okay. The second one was a little bit trickier. B was a correct answer. Animals are persons. So Dr. Henry Gergen says animals are persons. Okay. It doesn't mean animals are human, but they're persons. It means that they have feelings, they have thoughts, they have needs and wants, just like any other person. So animals are persons. Okay. The conservation of species they don't talk about. Animals should not be in prison is not mentioned. Okay. And that would be a repeat of animals are treated inhumanely, or just a part of that. Okay. All right. Animals are human beings and should be treated equally. No, I mean, I don't really see deers and dogs going voting for the next president anytime soon. So that's kind of silly. It's not logical. And zoos are fundamentally wrong. So the idea of capturing an animal, putting it into a box so that people can look at it and smile and laugh, is probably something that we could argue is fundamentally wrong. So it's not something we would want for humans. Imagine if we had aliens that are smarter than humans and they came to Earth and captured some humans and took them to their spaceship and to another planet and put them into a zoo for their alien buddies to look at and point at and go, hey, look at that weird little species that came from that small blue planet. We would not be happy about that. So animals are probably not happy about that either, right? So they're fundamentally wrong. Those are the arguments that are given, and that makes sense. If you get all three, you get all 3 points. If you get 2, you get 2 points. Okay, so A, B, and F. All right, animals are treated inhumanely, animals are persons, and they're fundamentally wrong. These are arguments given against zoos. Okay, all right. And so now we had these fill in the blanks, and these classes that we're doing, they make the listening a little bit easier, so be ready. In the real IELTS exam, one big difference is I'm not there to move the questions so that you know where we are in the audio. Okay, so this is why it's so important to practice at home. Okay, all right. So number 25, in order to improve the conditions for zoo animals, zoos must be held to something of animal treatment. Now, it's no more than 2 words. You had to catch this. This response was given by Dr. Gloria Mesto, the female professor speaker, and it's 2 words. And she said it very clearly. She enunciated this point. So listen for that stressor where the speaker goes kind of up with their voice. Okay. Paula Reese says higher standards. Carolina and Joseph agree, and all 3 of you are right. So it's higher standards. higher standards. And yes, you have to be able to catch this kind of collocation, and the emphasis was there, and you have to know how to spell this, and you have to catch this very important S. It's not just a higher standard of animal treatment, but higher standards, plural, of animal treatment. Very good. Okay, so while zoos do conserve animal life, Dr. Gergen, so when you see this in the question, you know you're listening for Dr. Gergen's voice. Dr. Gergen argues that this function could also be performed by animal. Now here, you should have gotten this because they repeat this question several times, or sorry, this answer. They repeat this answer several times. Paul Reese, number 26, says not experts. Arta says it's preserves. Yeah, preserves. Exactly. So animal preserves. Animal preserves, that's when you have a forest or a large piece of land that is fenced and protected. So poachers, hunters cannot enter that area. People cannot enter the area where animals can live peacefully with each other. Preserve means to keep, to save, and this is an animal preserve. And here again, plural, animal preserves. Okay, animal preserves. That's the collocation here. So you have to know that. Okay, then you had a little bit of a break, and you do sometimes have this weird situation in IELTS where it's one question set, and then they give you a break within that question set, and then you're still in the same question set when they continue. And so here we're still in the same question set, number 27, where we have to fill in the blank with no more than 2 words. And I mean, it was fairly easy. You had to catch it. It was right at the beginning. Enjoyment and something are 2 key positive attributes of zoos. And even if you didn't catch it, if you think critically, like when you go to a zoo, you have fun and you learn. So Arda says 27 and Bakrat says 27 is education. Rashika agrees. Anita, it's education. So enjoyment and education. Right? Just think about it. When you go to the zoo and you're looking at an animal, oftentimes you read the little plaque that tells you about the animal, how many are there in the species, where they live in the world, what they eat, maybe some unique characteristics about the animal. So you learn about the animals, and so you have fun and you learn about animals. So enjoyment and education are 2 key positive attributes of zoos, right? And Balu got that. Rakesh got that. Anita, if you got inspiration, it's okay. They won't give you the mark for that. When you're at home, you have to check your transcripts and see why the answer is education. Okay? Education is the better answer in this case, for sure. Okay. All right. So now we move on to multiple choice. And for multiple choice, you're always paying attention to the question mostly and listening for the answer. One of the biggest mistakes for multiple choice, again, is that students are staring at the answers, thinking that one of these answers is going to whoosh, jump into their face. But that doesn't happen. With these shorter answers, it's a little bit easier, but when the answer is much longer or the choices are much longer, it definitely becomes a lot more difficult, and that's usually the way that it looks for part 3 and part 4. So according to Dr. Gergen, so again, we're listening for Dr. Gergen. When you see this in the question, you know that you're listening for that specific speaker. Does the value of inspiring young people outweigh the negative aspects of zoos? Yes, no? He's not sure. He says that very clearly, right? So I see a lot of C's. Lydia, Jack, Rashika, Balu, Carolina, Morna, Mandeep. Yeah, it is C. He's not sure. He goes, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. Even says, I'd have to think about it. If you hear that, I'd have to think about it, you know that he's not sure, because you're not sure, you have to think about it. So the correct answer is C. If you got that, great job. Okay. So, and then here you have this multiple choice. What is the interesting question? And notice that here you have quotation marks, which means it's a direct quote or direct speech. Okay, so if you ever see that on the IELTS, these quotation marks, it means it's direct speech. So you're going to hear this exact phrasing where one of the speakers will say, oh, that's an interesting question. Okay, so whether zoos are ethical, whether the inspiration value of zoos outweighs their negative aspects, whether enjoyment and inspiration negate the importance of zoos. We've got a lot of B's coming up here. Great. And that was kind of a continuation of Dr. Gergen's response to the previous. So B is the correct answer. Yeah. So whether inspirational value of zoos outweighs their negative. We don't know that. And that's what he's unsure about. Okay. All right. Last question for this part. Question 30. What do the guests agree on? A, zoo conditions need to be improved. B, zoos are unethical. They definitely do not believe on that. They have different positions. The inspiration value of zoos is unethical. That doesn't even make sense. So even by deduction here and logic, it's quite straightforward to figure out that the correct answer here is A. Okay, so there you just needed to use a bit of logic, your own critical thinking, to figure out A is the correct answer. Okay. Rashika, Mandeep, Bakrat, Angelo, very good. Anita, okay, great. All right, so yeah, zoo conditions need to be improved. I mean, sure, we could always make zoos better, right? Make the life of animals more comfortable. All right, so again, just remember, listen for the speaker that's mentioned in the question. That's an important tip, okay? For multiple choice, again, take notes, use logic. For multiple choice, listen for the answers, change questions into statements, okay? These are some important tips. Now, how did you do out of 10 on that? Ideally for part 3, okay, so ideally for part 3, you're looking at, let's say, 7 or more, so 7 or greater, okay? If you're getting less than 7, especially less than 6, you're probably going to have difficulty getting a high band score just because there's still part 4 coming. You might have already lost some points in part 1 and 2. So you do not want to be losing more than 3 to 4 points in part 3 and part 4. And I can see that there's some who are doing okay. Paulo, 7 is okay. Mohit, 8 is good. Arda, 9 is great. Okay. All right. So that's good. All right. Let's continue with part 4. And we know that part 4 is going to be about the loggerhead turtle. Okay, so part 3 about zoos, part 4 about an animal. That often you'll actually find that in the IELTS exam, that part 3 and part 4 might be loosely related, not necessarily, but might be loosely related. So here, part 4 is about an animal. It's about the loggerhead turtle. So here, hopefully you know what a turtle is. A turtle is what lives in the ocean. Okay, maybe some of you are Googling loggerhead turtle. It's our little friend that lives in the ocean. He's got kind of flippers rather than feet. Let's give him a little tail. Okay. So, like that. Okay, and likes to swim. The ocean is the natural habitat. Okay, so that's our loggerhead turtle. That's going to be part 4. I didn't just draw the turtle to practice my artistic skills. I don't think it's the greatest turtle in the world. I drew that because you should be visualizing. So when you hear these topics, when you review these topics, you should visualize them. And Huang Nguyen's put a few turtles there. Those are actually tortoises, but Huang Nguyen has put some tortoises there, some tortoise emojis, so it's good. Okay. Akshay says drawing class starts now. Could be. All right. There we go. Adam, a whole family of lizards and reptiles. Okay, everyone. So let's get into it. Let's listen. Again, I'm playing the audio through my headset. So please turn up the volume if it's quiet for you. If it's good, then great. Don't put your answers in the chat. We'll go through them after. So save your answers and let's go through them together after. Don't confuse other students with answers in the chat. Here we go, everyone. Let's listen and answer part 4.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a professor discussing the migration of loggerhead turtles. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
It's late April on the South Atlantic coast of North America, and one of the most remarkable journeys in all of nature is about to begin. The loggerhead turtle, whose natural habitat is the open ocean, has to seek dry land to lay its eggs. The sandy beaches of Florida provide a perfect nesting spot, with soft sand that can be dug up by the persistent flippers of the female loggerhead. Over the course of the next 3 months, hundreds of thousands of eggs will be laid on such beaches. Many of these eggs will become the victim of predators, but many will survive to hatching, which occurs 2 months after being laid. Hatching marks the beginning of an incredible journey for the loggerhead turtle. Almost immediately upon hatching, the young turtles, known as hatchlings at this point, head for the open ocean. The ocean, while full of its own dangers and predators, provides a relative safe haven for the hatchlings away from many of the predators that live near the shoreline. These young turtles embark upon a journey that will take them upwards of 13,000 kilometers around the North Atlantic. Many animals make large and incredible journeys, but what makes the loggerhead turtle's migration so notable is the speed at which the animal moves. While many bird species make similar journeys, they move at velocities much faster than the loggerhead turtle. This slow-moving beast travels at the remarkably sluggish pace of only 3/4 of a kilometer per hour. This means it will take the turtle a minimum of 17,000 hours to complete its migratory journey, not even taking into account stops for feeding and sleep. To put that number in perspective, 17,000 hours is approximately 2 years of non-stop swimming. That the loggerhead turtle makes this journey alone makes it all the more impressive. From birth to adolescence to adulthood, the loggerhead turtle is a solitary traveller. But how does it know where to go? Doesn't it need a parent to help it know the route? This is where the loggerhead becomes even more fascinating. Recent research tells us the loggerhead uses the magnetic field of the Earth to determine its migration route. Because the Earth's magnetic field differs in each location around the world, the loggerhead turtle can use it as a kind of innate roadmap, illuminating the way to where they need to be. One example of this is the behaviour they exhibit when they encounter the particular magnetic field off the coast of Portugal. Instead of continuing north towards the cold waters of northern Europe, they sense the magnetic field and turn around, instead heading for the warmer waters of northwestern Africa. And it is not just that the loggerhead turtle has a sort of innate compass. They are able to determine, with surprising precision, their latitude and longitude. They know exactly when to zig and zag to optimize their migratory pattern. Even with their incredible ability to know where they are and where they need to be, the survival rate of migratory loggerhead turtles is incredibly low. In fact, only about 1 in 4,000 hatchlings makes it back to the beach in eastern Florida to mate and lay its eggs. However, that any make it at all is an incredible achievement and one of the great natural wonders of navigation.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And again, check those answers in the half minute. I'm just going to stop the audio on our website here. And we'll go through the answers together now that we've listened. As you notice, there was no break here. So this is a continuous flow of information. So you have to really keep pace and keep paying attention, not worry about missing answers. If you miss an answer, it's not the end of the world. You might be able to come back and answer it. You might hear the answer again later in a different context. So do not panic. The worst that can happen in part 4 is that you miss an answer and you freak out. Okay, then you'll miss another one and another one and another one, and it's disaster. It's a domino effect. So careful with that. Just stay focused. Okay, if you miss one, that's fine. Keep going forward. So the loggerhead turtle has to seek dry land to lay its eggs. The sandy beaches of, we know this is going to be some kind of a place, provide the perfect location for nesting. Mirzan says Florida. Now, Mirzan, make sure you capitalize that F, otherwise you'll lose that mark. Lydia, Florida, we've got lots of members answering Florida as well. Indeed, it is Florida. Okay, capital F. It's the name of a state. After hatching, the loggerhead turtle immediately heads for the ocean. The ocean is safer than the shore because it has fewer what? So, and maybe more hiding places too, right? So it's okay, just one at a time. It's not going to help if you give us all your answers at once. Okay. Sammy says predators, and Sammy feels that you could just write all these answers capital letters, and Sammy's right. So in the computer base, it's very easy. You just click caps lock. Okay, so predators. It is a common noun here, so you do not actually need capitals in this case, but if you want to, that's fine. So it has fewer predators. The turtles embark on a journey that will take them something kilometers around the Atlantic. So all you need here is a number. Ajit Silva says that number is 13,000 kilometers. Yeah, it is. It's 13,000 kilometers around the Atlantic. So all you need here is the number 13,000 and you are good to go. You don't have to answer in capitals, RT. Some people choose to so that they don't make capitalization mistakes, because if you make a capitalization mistake, you get it wrong. So if you write Florida, for example, with a small f, you'll get it wrong. But if you write it with all capitals, you'll still get it right. Okay? All right. While long migratory journeys are fairly commonplace in nature, what makes the loggerhead's journey especially notable is the extremely sluggish. Very good, Manak. Sluggish means very slow. Okay. Now, if you wrote the word slow, they'll give that to you because that's a perfect synonym for sluggish. It is the right answer in this case. So it doesn't have to be the exact word they used in the audio if it's a perfect synonym, but that's rare. So be very careful. Okay. Sluggish or slow. Okay. Pace that it travels at. Slug type of animal. Okay. This is a slug. It's a long mollusk, I believe, is the family. It's not an insect. It's got the eyeballs like this. Okay, that's a slug. You have sea slugs. You have land slugs. And slugs are very, very slow. So that's a slug. Anybody know what you call a slug when it has a house? So slug, now the slug has a house. The slug with a house is? It's not 2 years. It's not a sail. Proud Nerd says it's a snail. And Hong Nguyen says it's the Semoji right here. Yeah. And if you watch SpongeBob SquarePants, it's Gary. But no, so Gary's a sea snail. Okay, so snail. There you go. It's a snail. All right. Okay, very good. So slug, snail. We'll sometimes say in English that person's moving slower than a snail. So snail or slug are used to refer to slow movement, but slug actually becomes a verb in English as well. So the entire journey at this sluggish pace, so they're really moving slowly, the entire journey is equal to approximately something of continuous swimming with no breaks. Sammy says it's 2 years. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Lots of swimming. Apparently everybody enjoying that snail emoji. All right. So the entire journey is equal to approximately 2 years of continuous swimming with no breaks. They even said how fast they swim. Anybody catch that speed of the turtle? So turtle's swimming speed? Yeah, she actually said that. And when you're practicing for the listening section at home and with partners in a classroom, I highly recommend asking each other questions like this that go beyond the questions that you see on the paper, just to see how well you're listening actively. Okay? So Mohit says 3 kilometers an hour. It's not correct. It's not 3 kilometers per hour. 3 kilometers per hour would actually be very fast. That would be a very fast swimming speed. Okay? So it's not that fast. All right? But you're right. It is something per hour. Okay? It just wasn't 3 kilometers. Yeah, Bakrat, very good. It's 3/4 per hour. So it's 3/4 of a kilometer per hour, or more specifically, if we want to state it this way, so it's approximately 750 meters per hour is their speed. That's their average speed. Okay. Nope, Adam, it's not turbo in this case. Okay. So I know who you're referring to, by the way. So here it's 750 meters per hour, about 3/4 of a kilometer per hour. That's what she says. So test your knowledge, students, okay, when you're doing this kind of listening exercise, all right? Okay, so here we had this paragraph completion. So as incredible as the loggerhead turtle's journey is, now you're listening for some key words, some synonyms. Here, one of the words you might have caught was impressive. Is that the loggerhead is a something traveler. Here we have an adjective. We know that because we have this noun here, the traveler. So the loggerhead, number 36, Proud Nerd, and Vicky03 both agree that it's solitary. Yeah, that means it's traveling alone. Okay. So during the COVID crisis, many of us have been living solitary lifestyles. It means being alone or being separated from others, okay? Social distancing could also be paraphrased as solitary living, okay? It just kind of sounds better to say social distancing than solitary living. That's probably why we didn't choose that one. So traversing. Traversing means crossing the open ocean on its own for years at a time. Scientific research has in recent years told us that it is through a connection with the Earth's something that the turtle finds. So here I know that this is a noun that I had to listen to. Sammy and Bakrat say that's the magnetic field. Yeah. So the Earth's magnetic field. That the turtle finds their way around the ocean. They have kind of a compass. For example, the turtles are able to sense something off the coast of. This is a noun and it's a place, obviously, just like Florida was. That makes them change their direction and head for northwest Africa. Some warmer waters there. Portugal, that's right. Again, very important, capital P. Make sure that P is well above the line. and it's got that big upper part, so it's a very clear capital P. And that makes them change their direction and head for Northwest Africa, possessing more than a simple compass. So loggerhead's it's not just a simple old school compass, but maybe more like a GPS system using Google navigation. The loggerhead can innately sense its something and longitude. And if you got longitude and you know these words in English, then you'll definitely figure out that word, because these words are referring to the vertical and horizontal imaginary lines used to position ourselves. And that's exactly what GPS uses, is longitude and latitude. That's right, Anita Rashika, it's latitude. Very good. Okay, if you know the word latitude, you should also learn the word lateral, longitude. Okay, so latitude, longitude. Okay, now you know those words. And if you're going to study geography in university, you should definitely know those words in English. That will be expected in your classes. All right, last question had to do a little bit of math. Approximately what percentage of hatchlings make it back to the breeding ground in Florida? A, B, or C? 0.025%, 2.5%, or 25%? This one always saddens my heart to go over this question. Jack says A. Mohit agrees. Yeah, the correct answer is A. What do they say in the audio? They don't actually say. So the speaker doesn't actually say it's 0.025%. Bakrat says, yeah, so Bakrat, you're right. Bakrat says the answer was 1 in 4,000. Equals 0.025%. IELTS is a thinking exam, ladies and gentlemen. It's an English proficiency exam. It's a thinking exam, so you have to do a little bit of math, but just basic math, okay? Sometimes, especially if you want that band 9. So that was A, 0.025, okay? All right. No, Carolina, it's not. 1 in 4,000 is 0.025. Okay. So remember, 1% would be like, so this, yeah, percentages can be confusing. So 1% would be 1 in 100. Okay. 0.1% would be 1 in 1,000. Okay. And 0.01% would be 1 in 10,000. Okay, so yeah, it's good to know your percentages. So 1%, 1 in 100. 0.1%, 1 in 1,000. 0.01%, 1 in 10,000. So 0.025%, of course, is 1 in 4,000. Okay. All right, so hopefully that sheds a bit of clarity on percentages and how they work. All right, okay. Adam says, now it's a math lesson, art lesson, math lesson. And by the way, Adam is kind of making these funny jokes, and I appreciate you for that, Adam. So Adam's saying now it's a math lesson. The IELTS does integrate some of your basic knowledge from other fields of science and study as well, biology, history, mathematics. And I highly, highly do recommend for those of you preparing for the IELTS exam, especially for the academic, to learn and practice your English by looking at grade 12 high school materials in the English language. Okay, grade 11 and grade 12 high school materials. You can find a lot of these online now in digital books as well, and they're great to read and listen to because those are kind of the topics that are used for making these IELTS exams. Okay, all right. So how did everybody do? So we had some students here today and yesterday. How did you do out of 40? Give me your scores and I will calculate your score on our website, because on our website, at the very, very bottom, you've got all these tools, blogs and forums, and contact us, and you have this score calculator here. And if we click on that score calculator, up pops this screen. I'll make this a little bit darker here for us so that you can, other way. All right, so that you can see it a little bit clearer. Sammy says 31. So Sammy, that would be a band 7. Okay, as you see popping up there. And then Paul Reese says 32. That would be a 7.5. So 31 is the cutoff. So if you get 31, it's a 7. It's a high 7, but it's still a 7. 32, you're into the 7.5 range. Mohit says 40. That's going to be band 9, Mohit. No question about it. Arda, 37 is going to be a band 8.5. Okay, so good, good, good. Nomura, I hope your speaking exam went well. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, students, so again, for lots more materials, practice exams, videos, interactive courses, apps, visit aehelp.com. Click that big red button to join our premium package. It's really worth your money to get the right kind of materials. We help thousands of students every single day to improve their English communication for the IELTS. For general IELTS, make sure to go to this website with the green background. Click that big red button there to join our premium package. Thank you, Carolina, for moderating this class. Thank you, members, for your support. Thank you, viewers, for being here with me today. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day or evening. If it's late in your country, get some sleep, get some rest. Tomorrow, I'm back with speaking part 2 for members, speaking part 3 for everyone. I'm Adrian, and I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.